The golden sun pierced through the thick canopy of the Thai jungle, painting dappled patterns on the forest floor. The air buzzed with the chatter of birds, the occasional hiss of insects, and the rustle of leaves stirred by the wind. Among the towering trees and thick vines lived a troop of long-tailed macaques, agile and clever, masters of this emerald world. In the heart of the troop were two close friends, Niran and Kao. Niran, smaller in size but sprightly and sharp, was known for his daring tree leaps and playful nature. Kao, the stronger of the two, was calm and thoughtful, always watching before acting. The others often teased them for being opposites, but their bond was unbreakable. Where Niran went, Kao followed, and where Kao lingered, Niran waited. That morning, the jungle was unusually still. Clouds hovered low, and the dampness in the air signaled rain. The troop had gathered near a freshwater spring, munching on jackfruit and grooming one another. Niran, ever restless, had grown bored of the quiet and whispered to Kao, "Let's go. I heard the fruit trees near the southern cliffs are heavy with figs." Kao raised an eyebrow. "The cliffs? That's far. And the rains are coming." "That's what makes it perfect," Niran grinned. "No one else will be there. We'll have the whole feast to ourselves." Kao hesitated, but the sparkle in Niran's eyes was hard to resist. With a deep sigh and a knowing shake of his head, Kao agreed. "But we'll be back before the sky opens." With a final glance back at the troop, the two friends vanished into the undergrowth, leaping from vine to branch, their chatter echoing between the trees. The journey to the southern cliffs was beautiful but demanding. They crossed slippery stones over streams, navigated tangles of roots, and skirted past noisy hornbill nests. Niran led the way, bounding with ease, while Kao followed, ensuring they left no scent trail for predators. By midday, the clouds had thickened. A distant rumble rolled across the sky. They reached the cliffs just as the first raindrops began to fall. And just as Niran had predicted, the fig trees were abundant, branches bowed under the weight of ripe fruit, and not a soul in sight. They feasted like kings, gorging themselves until their bellies were round. Niran swung to a higher branch, pointing out to the horizon where the jungle stretched endlessly. "We should build a home there one day. Away from the others." Kao laughed. "And who would bring you food when you're too lazy to climb?" But before Niran could reply, the unthinkable happened. A thunderclap cracked so loud it shook the trees. A bolt of lightning split the sky, and with it, the branch Niran stood on gave way. Time seemed to slow. Niran's eyes widened. He reached for another branch, missed. Kao screamed his name and lunged forward, but it was too late. Niran plummeted through the branches, his body hitting several on the way down before disappearing into the thick foliage below. "Kao," came the faintest cry, then silence. Kao scrambled down the tree in a frenzy, branches scratching at his arms, his breath ragged. "Niran, Niran," he called out, heart pounding like a drum. The rain was falling harder now, and the forest floor had turned slick. He found Niran sprawled near the roots of a fig tree, barely conscious. One of his arms was bent at an unnatural angle. A deep gash ran down his leg, and his eyes fluttered open only for a moment before slipping shut again. "No, no, no," Kao whispered, crouching beside him. He touched Niran's face gently. "You're okay. You're going to be okay." A low growl interrupted the moment. In the underbrush, two yellow eyes glowed. A civet. Not as dangerous as a leopard, but still a predator. And with Niran injured, they were vulnerable. Kao stood tall, puffing his chest, baring his teeth. He screamed, a loud, furious warning, while keeping one hand on Niran's body. The civet hesitated, then vanished into the jungle, spooked by Kao's display. But that was only the beginning. The rain poured, turning paths into streams and hiding dangers underwater. The journey back to the troop would be long and treacherous, and Kao now had to carry his injured friend through it all. Kao didn't wait. He ripped large leaves to bandage Niran's leg and fashioned a sling from vines and bark to cradle the broken arm. Then, gently, he lifted Niran onto his back. Niran groaned softly but didn't wake. Kao took a deep breath, squinting through the rain. "We're going home," he murmured. "I've got you." And so began the journey. Step by slow step, Kao carried Niran through the storm, slipping on mud, dodging snakes, and pushing through thorny bushes. He stopped only to rest for a few moments, hiding them under large leaves or inside the hollow of trees. Each time, he checked Niren's breathing, whispered to him, encouraged him. As night fell, the jungle came alive with haunting sounds. Owls hooted, frogs croaked, and something screamed in the distance. Kao's limbs ached, and his eyes burned with fatigue. But he kept going, driven by something stronger than fear: love. By midnight, they were still far from the troop. Kao found a small cave beneath a ridge and gently laid Niren down. He gathered moss for warmth, pulled fruit from a nearby tree, and curled up beside his friend. The rain didn't stop, and neither did Kao's resolve. He stayed awake, alert for danger, his body shielding Niren's from the cold. And as the wind howled outside the cave, he whispered again and again, "You're not alone. I'm here. I'll get you home." The jungle would test them again come morning. But for now, under the shelter of the rocks and leaves, two friends rested, one broken in body, the other burning with purpose. The storm had not let up. The jungle awoke shrouded in thick fog, the earth soaked, and the leaves still weeping from the night's downpour. Mist floated like spirits among the trees, and the normally vibrant sounds of morning were subdued, as if the entire forest was holding its breath. Inside the small cave, Kao stirred. His body was stiff and cold, his fur damp and matted from the night before. He hadn't truly slept, just dozed in short bursts, ears always alert for danger. Niren lay curled against him, still unconscious, though his breathing had steadied during the night. The crude vine sling around his arm had held, but his injured leg was badly swollen. Kao pressed his forehead to Niren's. "It's morning. We have to keep going." Gently, he nudged Niren awake. Niren groaned, eyes fluttering open. "Kao," he rasped. Relief washed over Kao like sunlight. "You're awake. That's good. You fell, remember?" Niren tried to sit up, but pain seared through his body, and he gasped. "Don't move too much," Kao said, supporting him. "You're hurt, but I'm taking you home." Niren's eyes filled with tears, not just from the pain, but from the realization of how far they were from the troop. "I'm sorry?" "Don't," Kao said, firm but kind. "You're not alone." Kao foraged what he could. A few wild bananas, a cluster of soft mushrooms, and rainwater collected in curled leaves. He fed Niren bit by bit, letting him sip water slowly. Then he prepared once more for the journey. He tore away vines, wrapping them around his chest and Niren's body, creating a secure harness. When he was ready, he hoisted his friend onto his back, braced himself, and stepped into the jungle once more. Each step was a battle. The trails were washed away, leaving behind slippery mud and puddles that hid sharp stones. Some fallen branches blocked the narrowest paths, forcing Kao to backtrack or crawl under them with Niren's weight on his back. More than once, he lost his footing and slid down small slopes, shielding Niren from injury with his own body. By mid-morning, Kao's muscles screamed in protest. His arms trembled each time he reached to push a branch aside. But he didn't stop. They came upon a swollen stream that had once been a quiet brook. Now it surged with muddy water, foaming as it twisted around rocks. Kao hesitated at the edge, heart-pounding. The current looked strong. One wrong move, and both of them could be swept away. But they had no other choice. The detour would add hours they couldn't afford. He scouted the banks for a spot where the stream narrowed. A fallen log offered a precarious bridge. Kao tested it. It groaned under his weight but held. With Niren strapped to him, Kao crawled across the slick surface, each step a prayer. Rain pelted down again, turning bark into ice beneath his feet. Halfway across, a loud crack made him freeze. The log split near the far end. With a cry, Kao leapt forward, landing roughly on the other side. He rolled to protect Niren, slamming into a bush. For a moment, everything was spinning. But they were across. He lay there, panting, heart racing. Niren whimpered behind him, and Kao quickly turned to check on him. "Still breathing. Still alive. You're the worst tree climber I know," Niren muttered weakly. Kao laughed, a tired, raw sound. "Glad to see your humor survived the fall." As they pressed on, signs of other creatures began to appear. A line of soldier ants marched across a tree trunk. A family of gibbons swung above them, chattering curiously. And deep in the foliage, unseen eyes watched their slow progress: monkeys, boars, perhaps even leopards. At midday, Kao's legs buckled, and he nearly collapsed. He found a wide-rooted fig tree and slumped beneath it, letting Niren rest on a bed of leaves. His own arms were cut and bruised. One foot had a deep gash from a rock he hadn't seen earlier. But he said nothing. Complaining wouldn't bring them home. Niren opened his eyes. "You need to rest too, Kao. You're going to collapse." "I can't," Kao whispered. "We're still too far. The troop won't wait forever. I shouldn't have asked you to come with me." Niren's voice broke. "This is my fault." "No," Kao said firmly. "We came together. That's all that matters." He stood, wincing, and lifted Niren once more. But as the afternoon wore on, they encountered their most dangerous obstacle yet. A stretch of jungle had been scarred by humans. A line of snares and traps, hidden beneath leaves and baited with fruit, lay in wait for unsuspecting animals. Kao recognized the signs from stories told by the older monkeys. No birdsong, no rustle of life, only silence. He nearly stepped into a snare, catching the glint of a wire in the mud. Heart thundering, he backed away and searched for another path. But the traps were everywhere, scattered in a zigzag pattern designed to corral animals into one fatal mistake. Carefully, Kao studied the terrain, moving sideways, brushing aside leaves with a stick. At one point, his foot triggered a branch, and a metal loop snapped shut with terrifying speed, just inches from where Niren's tail had been. Kao froze, breath caught. He'd almost lost him. Sweating, shaking, Kao steered them out of the danger zone, every step a nightmare. The storm clouds returned by dusk, casting the jungle in deep shadow. The air grew colder, and Kao's limbs felt like stone. They made camp near a tree with wide leaves. Kao tied them together for a crude shelter. That night, Niren had a fever. Kao soaked a cloth in cool water and laid it across Niren's forehead. "Stay with me," he whispered. "You're strong. You're stronger than you know." The fever lasted until dawn. Kao barely slept, speaking to Niren through the worst of it. Telling stories, memories, anything to keep his friend anchored. He recounted how they once stole a durian from the alpha and blamed a squirrel. How Niren once fell into a pond trying to impress a female. How they raced to the top of the tallest banyan tree, and Niren beat him by a whisker. "You still owe me a rematch," Kao murmured, voice cracking. "So don't you dare leave me." By morning, Niren's fever broke. He woke with clearer eyes, though he looked exhausted. "You stayed up all night?" Kao nodded. "You needed me." Silence stretched between them. Then Niren reached out, weakly, but with meaning, and gripped Kao's hand. "You saved me." Kao's eyes glistened, but he smiled. "Not yet. We're almost home." They had one day left of travel. The jungle would throw more trials in their path, tangled roots, bloodthirsty mosquitoes, even a surprise encounter with a territorial wild pig, but Kao's determination never wavered. They were close now. He could feel it. Home was waiting. The morning mist thinned as the sun slowly began its rise, casting golden beams through the jungle canopy. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world rinsed clean, but for Kao, the real storm had only just started to calm. Kao stood at the edge of a narrow ridge, Niren strapped carefully to his back. Below them, the thick treetops of home beckoned. They were almost there. Just a few more miles. Niren stirred and mumbled, "Smells like guava trees. Are we close?" Kao smiled without turning around. Very close. But that final stretch was not easy. The forest, though beautiful, had one last challenge in store, a steep descent through a rocky pass. The path was narrow, slick with moss, and littered with fallen branches. Monsoon rains had caused small landslides that made footing treacherous. Kao's muscles screamed in protest. He gripped tree roots, lowered himself carefully step by step, all while keeping Niren safe on his back. A misstep here wouldn't be a fall, it would be the end. Suddenly, a deep growl echoed through the trees. Kao froze. From the brush ahead, a large, muscular form stepped out onto the path. A dhole, the wild red dog of the jungle. Slender and quick, it could run down prey for miles. Alone, Kao might have escaped. But carrying Niren, he stood no chance in a chase. The dhole's amber eyes locked onto Kao and Niren. Its ears twitched. It was sizing them up, injured, vulnerable, tired. Kao slowly backed up, shielding Niren's body with his own. He bared his teeth, gave a low warning grunt. The dhole didn't budge. A beat passed, and then another rustle behind them. Kao's heart dropped. Another dhole stepped into view. A pair. They were stalking them. Niran, semi-conscious, whispered, "Leave me. I'll slow you down." Kao's jaw tightened. Never. He grabbed a long branch and held it like a spear. His stance was unsteady, but his eyes burned with the same fire that had carried him this far. He let out a primal scream, the sound of fear and fury and love mixed into one, and lunged forward, brandishing the branch wildly. The first dhole flinched and growled. But then, a new sound filled the air. High above, cries rang out through the trees. A rapid series of hoots and warning calls, the alarm of macaques. Kao's troop had heard him. From the trees, several figures burst into view, agile, swift, loud. The troop had come looking for them. The dhole pair hesitated, wary now. The troop was not large, but a group of shouting, branch-throwing monkeys was no easy fight. With one last snarl, the dholes turned and vanished into the jungle. Kao collapsed to his knees, gasping. From the branches above, a female macaque called out in worry. Then, one by one, they surrounded him and Niran, the alpha, the old ones, the juveniles, even the curious little ones. Their expressions were wide with shock and concern. Gently, they helped lift Niran from Kao's back. One elder inspected the injured monkey with great care, while others offered Kao fruit and water. The troop had not abandoned them. They had sent scouts to search after noticing their absence, and now, at last, they had been found. The moment Kao's burden was lifted, his legs gave out. He fell forward and blacked out. He awoke 2 days later under a large tree canopy, cushioned by soft leaves and moss. Sunlight filtered through the trees. The air was warm, peaceful. Familiar voices chattered nearby. Kao blinked. Niran lay beside him, bandaged and weak but smiling. "Took you long enough to wake up." Kao gave a weak chuckle. "I thought I died." "You almost did," said another voice, the alpha male, standing nearby with a serious expression. "But you didn't. You brought him back." Kao sat up slowly. The other monkeys gathered, watching him with something he hadn't expected, admiration. "You crossed the cliffs," said the elder. "You carried him through the storm. Past the snares. Past the predators. That is more than bravery. That is loyalty." Kao looked to Niran, whose eyes glistened with quiet gratitude. In the days that followed, the troop cared for them both. Niran's wounds were cleaned, his arm sat by a wise elder who had once tended to many battle-scarred warriors. Kao's feet were wrapped in bark and leaves soaked in healing herbs. Food was brought to them. The youngest monkeys played near them. Others sat and listened as Kao, reluctantly at first, told the story of their journey. He spoke of the fall, the storm, the fever, of the snares and the dhole. But more than that, he spoke of Niran, his spirit, his courage, even in pain. How they had survived because they refused to give up on each other. One day, the alpha approached Kao and offered him a slice of mango, a symbol of high respect among the troop. "From this day, you are more than just one of us," he said. "You are our heart. You remind us what it means to protect one another." Kao didn't know what to say. He didn't need to. He had done what he knew was right, not because of reward, but because of friendship. And in doing so, he had become something more than brave. He had become a symbol of the unbreakable bond between kindred spirits. Months passed. Niran healed. The scars on his leg remained, but he could climb again, slower than before, but with a smile. Kao and Niran often sat high in the trees overlooking the jungle, where the sun painted the leaves gold every evening. Sometimes the younger monkeys would gather below and ask them to retell the story, the journey through the jungle, they called it. Kao would roll his eyes, but Niran, always the showman, would launch into it with flair. And when they reached the part where Kao screamed at the dhole with a stick in his hand, the troop would roar with laughter. But Kao always ended the tale the same way, with the same quiet words. "None of it would have mattered if I didn't believe in him. And he believed in me." One morning, as the sun rose over the jungle and painted everything in fire and light, Niran turned to Kao and said, "We should go back to that fig tree again one day." Kao smiled. "Only if we stick together this time." And with that, the two friends, now legends of the canopy, disappeared into the treetops once more, side by side, forever bound by a journey that tested the limits of love, courage, and friendship.